Hello, I'm Tony Guida. This is My New York. If you visit the Baseball Hall of Fame, or the Basketball Hall of Fame, or the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, you will see photos by my guest, George Kalinsky. George is the official photographer of Madison Square Garden, still going strong after 50 years. Among the highlights of his legendary career was a nearly 30-year friendship with Frank Sinatra. He'll tell us all about that next. I am so happy to welcome back to the program George Kalinsky, official photographer of Madison Square Garden, author of so many great photos that it's impossible to calculate and to fully appreciate, I think. But we're going to try here today and show a lot of your pictures. Starting with Mr. Sinatra. I've heard the story, but it's still just amazing. How did this begin?
I was in my office one day and I hear a knock on the door, and Joe Acrofrida, who was the head of Madison Square Garden security, stuck his head in and he said, "A friend of yours wants to see you." And he backed up and in walks Frank Sinatra with his hand extended. And I couldn't believe it, but Sinatra walked in and he said, "Hi, I'm Frank Sinatra. I hear you're a great photographer. I want you to teach me all you know about photography in 5 minutes." And it was like,
that sounds like Sinatra.
And he explained that he was being hired by Life magazine to photograph the first Ali Frazier fight, and he wanted all the help that he can get. And he said, "I came to you." I said, "Frank, have a seat."
You said Frank. You didn't say Mr. Sinatra.
I don't ever think I said Mr. Sinatra ever. It was always Frank or FS.
Yeah.
But and I never really consciously thought about that until this moment. But I said, "Frank, have a seat," and we sat down and both of us started talking about photography for about an hour and a half.
And what you told him must have been very useful and helpful and instructive, because he did obviously take the photos of the Ali Frazier fight for Life magazine, and you took a photo of him taking the photos. I love this photograph of yours.
Frank wanted to make sure that I took a photograph of him photographing the fight, which I did, and I was very fortunate to have the light be so perfect on his face, because you can really see the blue eyes.
I was stunned by that. I mean, we all know him. Well, we don't know him, but he was called Old Blue Eyes, and I've never seen bluer eyes than that.
You can't see bluer eyes than that, and I was shocked myself. I looked at the picture when I first saw it, and I said, as well as the picture is sort of well designed and just a nice picture of Sinatra, I just was awed by the blue of his eyes.
Yeah, it's hard not to be.
That seems to be the whole key to everybody looking at that picture. It's just that blueness.
I want to go back here a second. So he walks into your office. You've never met this. You have no idea this man is coming. And it seems to me that you and I are probably a similar age. And at least for me, Frank Sinatra was the voice, he was the music, he was the sound of my adolescence and my early romances. I mean, that was the music that I listened to. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but I think if Frank Sinatra had walked into my office when I'm 25 or 30 years old, I think I would have collapsed on the floor.
Well, it was quite an emotional feeling when Frank walked into my office. And I mean, the fact that it was my office and Frank Sinatra's in it was quite a thing. But it was just a great opportunity for me to explain to him what he wanted to know, because he was so curious. He's probably one of the most curious people I ever met. He wants to know everything about everything that is important to him.
Right.
And photography was important to him because he wanted to be a good photographer that night. He wanted to be the best photographer he possibly could be. So he wanted whatever advice I could give him.
Yeah. And out of this, you guys remained friends for the rest of his life.
After we were finished in my office and we were explaining and talking about photography, we stopped off at the press conference that was downstairs for the weigh-in, and I introduced Frank to Joe Frazier, who Frank had never met before. And Joe was absolutely thrilled to meet Frank, as Frank was absolutely thrilled to meet Joe. And then we went to Patsy's. And
his favorite
yeah, he said,
spot.
"Do you want to come to me? Do you want to come for lunch with me? We'll go to Patsy's." Well, somehow when we got to Patsy's and we started talking about all kinds of things in life, I realized that you are a very lucky guy, Kalinsky, to be sitting here with Frank Sinatra.
Right.
Because as you said, you put the radio on in the car, you listen to his music in so many possible places. And he was a very big influence on so many of us who believed in his songs and the words, not only the music, but the words. People don't write like that anymore.
And the way he phrased those words.
And the way he phrased them. You know, it's interesting that you mentioned the way he phrases his words. One of the things that hit me when he first came into my office with his voice was how he spoke in a streetwise way, as if
his Hoboken accent.
His Hoboken accent, and he was just like a regular guy. It wasn't such.
Wasn't that clean diction that we hear on the records?
No, it wasn't. It was really a rough edition of Sinatra when he spoke in person.
Right. I'd love to hear some of that. So it leads to, as I say, a lifelong friendship and a couple of really wonderful pictures. Let's look at this one from an event at Madison Square Garden. It was a concert that he gave in 1974 called The Main Event, and you took this photograph of him, which I understand turned out to be the favorite photograph of him that he thought was the best photograph of him ever taken. But what I'm interested in before we get to that is, well, talk about the photograph first, and then I'll ask you about your influence in naming and positioning that concert.
When I saw the pictures developed of the concert, the main event, I was thinking of many things that led to the concert. For example, Frank and I had dinner one night, and he pulls out these pieces of paper, and it says the main event, and different sketches of the Madison Square Garden ceiling. And he said, I want to do a concert that's like a real boxing event, because my desire, my dream was to be the heavyweight champion of the world. I love boxing.
He's saying this to you.
He's saying this to me.
I wanted to be Frazier or Ali.
I want to be. My dream is if I had an opportunity to be anything, I would like to be the heavyweight champion of the world. And matter of fact, there is no event that has the aura of a heavyweight championship fight at Madison Square Garden. He said that's the ultimate. There's no concert, there's no any kind of event that has that aura. And that's why I feel that my dream is to be the heavyweight champion of the world. So the next best step would be to have the concert with the aura of a heavyweight championship fight, to have the atmosphere of a heavyweight championship fight. And he said, I loved the way you had the picture of Ali and Frazier against the garden roof. He said, I would like that in the PR and the advertising that's going to come up on the fight. I said, Frank, and he asked me, he said, how can we do that? I said, it's really very simple. I said, instead of Ali and Frazier being superimposed on the garden ceiling, you're going to be superimposed on the garden ceiling wearing a tuxedo, and you're going to have boxing gloves, and you're going to be going like this. And it just came out of my head, but that's exactly what happened.
A lot of things that come out of your head on impulse turn out to be just extraordinarily valuable, like saying, you know, in 1966, I'm the photographer at Madison Square Garden when you had never even been in the building. But yeah, that's it. So you created or suggested to him the creation of the advertising and how the poster and everything about that concert would look.
Well, the day of the concert, it was in a full page in every single newspaper in the United States. And it was a picture of Frank Sinatra holding his hands up like this over the ceiling of the garden. And that was so important to him. And the event itself, Howard Cosell came out and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the heavyweight crooner of the world, Mr. Frank Sinatra." And that was thrilling to Sinatra, regardless of how well he did in the concert. The fact that he came out and it had the atmosphere of this heavyweight championship fight, that was important to him.
I want to go back to that picture, which you found out later became his favorite photograph of himself. Did he really say to you, this is so good, something to the effect of, this is so good, I think I should enter myself in a beauty contest?
I have a picture that Frank signed for me, and I remember calling him up and said, "I have this picture that I think you're going to like." So he told me to come over to the Waldorf where he had a suite, and a permanent suite. And I brought the picture up to him, and he looked at it, and he said, "I think I ought to enter myself into a beauty contest. I love the picture." And eventually it became his favorite picture. But he signed it for me also, and I have the picture to this day, signed by Frank Sinatra, saying, "This is one of the best ever. I should enter myself into a beauty contest."
Wow.
And
yeah,
that was really, that was, you know, you can't ask for any more than if the subject that you're taking says, "This is my favorite photo," and that's basically what he said.
And you took many photographs of Sinatra, and there's another one, a beautiful black and white study of him at a concert at the Uris Theater years later. And, you know, it's just essential Sinatra. I mean, he's, I don't know, pensive, he's got the cigarette in his hand. He's concentrating on what he's singing. Looks like he's singing. You can look at that picture and just hear the soundtrack of some of his torch songs, like Blues in the Night or something, just by looking at that.
Well, this particular picture was taken as I was sitting in the front row where I was invited by Frank one night to the Uris Theater to sit in this front row seat and photograph him. So I did. And this song that he is singing as I'm photographing him was "A Quarter to Three, Set It Up, Joe." It's the saloon song.
Sure, that's what I was trying to say. This is the saloon Sinatra.
And I remember when he passed away, Tina Sinatra called me, and she was crying on the phone. It was only 2 days after he passed away. And she said, "No one has ever caught the essence of my father as you have in this photo. And you know it's a full page in the Hollywood Reporter. Have you seen it?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen it yet." Well, she said, "Get it." She said, I can't tell you how I feel about this photograph because he's singing to me. He really is singing to me. And no one has ever caught the essence of my father as you have in this photo." And again, I had goosebumps. I had goosebumps all over my body because you can't have more of a reward than for someone to say, "That's my favorite photo," when you're dealing with either the person or the family or a relative of that person.
So let's move on to some of your other great photographs. There's this Peggy Fleming shot as she's skating, and it's all art, it's all emotion, and then there's that great reflection on the ice. Tell us about this.
In 1968, Peggy Fleming was the Olympic gold champion in figure skating, and she came maybe a month or two later to perform at the Garden. In addition to which, one of those nights, she was going to perform as an NBC special that NBC
I remember
had done a lot of publicity on. So I was photographing this show with the TV cameras in an empty garden. It was strictly
the rehearsal. This is the rehearsal.
This is a rehearsal. And I remember as she came over to me, she kneeled, and I even was saying to myself, it would be great if there was a reflection. And at that moment, the producer stopped, or the director stopped the show, and he said, "Peggy, hold up a minute." And he said, "Guys, I want you to take a pail of water and just throw it onto the ice, because the ice is showing up as not smooth enough." So the workers throw the water onto the ice, it becomes real smooth, but what I also see is an incredible reflection.
Yeah.
And so when Peggy comes from the other end of the ice to where I am, where the water was just thrown, and she goes and gives her final moment on the ice, that reflection just shot up like unbelievable. Yeah. And that made it into another great lucky shot by Kalinsky.
Yeah, well, luck is somebody said luck is the residue of design, but let's move on to, just a lovely, poignant picture of a clown backstage at Madison Square Garden. I guess this was Otto the Clown, famous clown.
Otto the Clown was known as the most famous clown in the circus. And he was always showing such emotion and feelings. And this one particular show, I looked at him as the show was ending, and he looked particularly sad. And he's a sad sack clown. He's supposed to be sad, but he just looked really sad. So I followed him into his dressing room, and he sat down. I said, "Otto, is there anything the matter?" And he just looked at me, and he didn't say anything. He just looked down. And then he got up and he took his robe off, and then he got some newspapers and piled them up like for a pillow, and he lied down on a bench, and he lied down, put his head on the pillow.
Wow.
And he fell asleep, and he never woke up again. He passed away. What was happening is Otto was dying of throat cancer, and he had no way of talking to me. And he just wanted to lie down and go to sleep. And this is, I mean, it's just a shocking situation where I'm photographing a clown who looked so incredibly emotionally sad, and then passes away.
Unbelievable. That's extraordinary. There's another extraordinary shot. It's an interesting angle of a couple of buildings that no longer exist in this city because of a horrible terrorist attack on September 11th of 2001. But you took this picture on September 10th, the day before. Why were you photographing the Twin Towers?
Around the year 2000, I was photographing a lot of rabbis all over the world for a book that I was doing on rabbis, the many faces of Judaism. And I had, on September 10th, a date with 3 rabbis across the street from the World Trade Center to photograph these rabbis. And I did it, I remember doing it around 3 o'clock. I came out around 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'm just standing at the World Trade Center looking up, and I'm saying, you know, I never saw this view before. It's so arty, at which point it started to pour. And then, so I was using the World Trade Center now as just help because I was using it as a shelter for the rain. And then somehow the rain stopped, the sun came out, and I looked up, I said, "You better take a picture." To myself, I talked to myself a lot. I said, "You better take a picture of this." So I did. I took one snap. And the next day is the World Trade Towers tragedy. But I had the picture, probably the last picture taken of the World Trade Center.
I want to go to something you do with your photographs, many of them. You make photo paintings, and we have a whole bunch of them, and many of these are great performers who have appeared at Madison Square Garden, and I guess we'll just, kind of show them as you're talking about. The first one, I think, is Michael Jackson. Tell me about developing this idea. Why did you do this?
Since I wanted to be an artist when I was a kid, I always was looking for opportunities to be an artist and to be not only a photographer artist, but a painting artist. And so eventually, with my photos, I started painting over the photos, and I liked it, and then other people started to really like it also. So I tried to develop a technique where I could have the picture show for what it is in itself, but also make it look like a painting. And when I show people the difference of the two pictures, most people like the painting better than the photograph.
Really? Let's just go through some of them. This is, next one is Miles Davis, I guess, at the Garden, I suppose?
Most of these pictures were taken originally at Madison Square Garden.
And this is Miles Davis, yeah.
And this is Miles Davis, and I love this particular picture with the paint because it was also a blurry picture that I took purposely to show the movement and emotions of Miles playing.
We have Jerry Garcia.
I was inducted into the Madison Square Garden Walk of Fame last year, along with the Grateful Dead, and Jerry Garcia's daughter was there. And I took her over to show her this 5-foot picture of her father hanging in the garden, and she cried when she saw it and said, "I must have that picture."
Henrik Lundqvist, still tending goal for the Rangers. That's a wonderful photograph and painting.
Well, this is the king of the Rangers, and it was, again, it's the opportunity to not be able to photograph just anybody, but I'm photographing the world's greatest entertainers, the world's greatest athletes, in the world's greatest arena, and it's just so great an opportunity to do this. And lately, to be able to paint so many pictures like this is something that I feel good about because people really like them.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix is another one that you did, and
Jimi Hendrix was the first entertainer to perform in Madison Square Garden as an entertainer.
What do you mean?
In the new garden, which started, or the current garden, which started in 1968.
Ah, I see.
He was the first entertainer to perform in the new garden.
In the new garden. Let's talk about some of your other iconic photos that are, I think people probably have seen in their lifetime. Elvis Presley's one of them. A lot of people have probably seen this picture of Elvis.
This
you took it
photograph,
when? When was this?
This photograph of Elvis is probably the most used photograph of Elvis commercially for him. And I remember going into the dressing room before I took this picture, and it was 15 minutes to go before he was to appear on stage. And I went in and I introduced myself to Elvis, but I must tell you that it was one of the feelings like when Sinatra walked into my office. He had this charisma with the white jumpsuit and just the way he looked. I'm standing next to him, and I was sort of one of the few times I was awed again. And he said, "What's the greatest moment?" I introduced myself to him, told him who I was, and he said, "What's the greatest moment you ever had in Madison Square Garden?" And I looked at him, and I'm just staring, and I'm saying, "Right now is the greatest moment I ever had in the garden."
Okay.
Well, what was interesting about Elvis is that he was very shy, and he needed his inner circle to be around him to help him to be more secure, actually.
Really?
But a lot of people that I photograph and a lot of people that I've met who are great performers are very shy off stage.
There are a couple of photographs of female stars, and they sort of like bookend our, some part of our lives, and as performers. There's the very young Barbra Streisand, and I'm wondering where this photo came from. And then after this, I'm going to talk about the other end of when I said bookend, we're going to talk about Judy Garland. But this is what? This is Streisand at what, 27 years old?
I don't know how old Barbra Streisand was in this picture, but it was taken in 1969 at a benefit concert at the Garden for Mayor Lindsay.
Mm.
And I remember the feeling I had of how simple she looked and how great her voice was. And I'm saying to myself, wow, you know, this is an incredible opportunity to photograph who I thought was the greatest female singer at that particular time.
Judy Garland, this is the end of her career, or at least her in this country, United States career.
Judy Garland performed in the Felt Forum at Madison Square Garden, and it was just an incredible week of her rehearsing for this show.
Mm.
She was not feeling well. She was wearing slippers, as you can see. And she looked at me when, like the first day I photographed her, and she looked at me and she said, "Darling, I want you to walk me over here." And then about 3 minutes later, she said, "Darling, I want you to walk me over here." And it was, she was rehearsing for the show that was going to be Christmas Eve, and she wasn't doing well for whatever problems that she had. I seemed to be every now and then an arm for her or legs for her to help her walk from spot to spot. But Judy Garland arguably was one of the greatest singers, female singers of all time, and she was just an icon of a performer.
Let's finish on just a kind of comic, in a way I think of it, a photograph of Reggie Jackson in the clubhouse, and he seems to be angry. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but he's shooting the bird, as we say, at you or who?
No, Reggie was talking to Catfish Hunter, who was a teammate of his, and this was in the World Series against the Cincinnati Reds, and this was right after they had won.
The Reds, did they sweep the Yankees? They won anyway.
I don't remember if they swept the Yankees or not, but Reggie's talking in the locker room, and sometimes, you know, even Reggie Jackson trusts me. They just feel that I'm not going to do anything with the pictures to hurt them in any way.
Well, your pictures have ennobled us, entertained us, given us such great moments, and what I like about you the most is you're still, well, two things: that you've given us all these pictures, and that you're still taking them. You're still working there, and good for you, George. It's been a delight to talk with you.
Oh, it's been a privilege to be here with you, Tony, and I thank you very much for all these years of friendship.
Thank you, too. We will see you next time.